What's up, guys? Happy 4th of July, and for those of you who live in the country that is the best in the West, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about America. Happy American Independence Day. Today, most Americans will be drinking beer, barbecuing, playing baseball, and blowing their fingers off with firecrackers, completely oblivious to the meaning and significance of Independence Day, and what it took to create one of the most transformational nations in the world. They forgot how a small group of men, George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and many other important figures, got together to forge a nation which revolutionized the course of humanity for centuries to come. Now, most colonial Europeans residing in North America were English, and they had no interest in revolting against their ruler, the King George II, and were absolutely content with their servitude. But these Englishmen, these American patriots, with quite a bit of wisdom among them, had an idea and an opportunity of a lifetime in their hands to pull off one of the greatest revolutions and upsets against a seemingly invincible adversary ever before seen. This was their one and only chance. The risks were grave. Many people would die. Their enemy was an undefeated global superpower, and it would require nothing short of a miracle to pull off. But with exceptional prowess, admirable acts of courage, and an absolutely fierce determination, there was a shot heard around the world. The American Revolution commenced. Men shed blood, sweat, and tears for 18 years. And in 1783, the people declared their sovereignty from the English crown. And on July 4th, 1776, these men, these founding fathers, convened in Philadelphia. They philosophized, they debated, they argued to create an irreproachable constitution and a system of governance that gave the citizenry the greatest amount of freedom possible while limiting the rulers, the government, to the strictest amount possible. They called themselves Americans, and the country they founded became the greatest global powerhouse the modern world has ever seen. The American ideals and principles of self-determination, individual liberty, and limited government inspired revolutions around the world and spread it out like wildfire. After their honorable lives and respective deaths, the founding fathers of the United States of America passed that torch of freedom and the responsibilities to future generations of Americans to uphold and protect. We Americans were given a constitutional republic, but only and only if we protect it from tyrannical evil can we keep it. Today marks the 242nd year since the founding of this nation. Today we reflect on periods of growth, chaos, oppression, violence and war, hatred, but also periods of harmony, of peace, of abundance and prosperity. We reflect on the fierce spirit of Americana. We've come far as a country. Yes, slavery was messed up. It was a messed up thing to do to people. It was a messed up economic system. But Americans ended it worldwide. The genocidal warfare of the natives, that was also jacked up. But Americans have fought to end other genocides since. When we as blacks, whites, Hispanics, men and women, Democrats and Republicans, rich, poor, Christians, atheists, hippies, yuppies, cowboys, and rednecks, when we come together and are unified as one nation, as red-blooded, patriotic Americans, we can become an unstoppable force of good, an unstoppable force of prosperity and freedom worldwide. It doesn't take a college degree to realize that our country is becoming more and more polarized. The debate cruder, the protests more violent. We see race baiters like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and Black Lives Matter and Barack Obama dividing us. We see celebrities like Robert De Niro, Madonna, and Meryl Streep and Michael Moore dividing us. We hear calls to political violence, like Antifa shutting down speeches at UC Berkeley, Maxine Waters encouraging her audience to harass members of the Trump administration and Republicans. We saw the shooting at the Republican baseball game where Steve Scalise was severely injured. We've also seen the literal hashtag Hunt Republicans. We see the corporate media giants such as Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter shadow banning, demonetizing, or shutting down the accounts of mainly conservative political commentators in a seemingly widespread political censorship campaign. And I don't care what side of the coin you're on. You cannot support political censorship against anybody. America was founded on principles of free speech, the freedom to speak your mind. And when we say, oh, hey, yay, they're censoring my enemies, that's a good thing, don't forget that that government, that entity that's censoring your enemies, can also censor you. Most Americans will celebrate this day with little understanding of the courage and the prowess and the strength and the perseverance and the endurance and the sacrifice that it took to create this great country, let alone protect it from tyrannical forces of evil. And I'm not talking about everyday Englishmen when I'm talking about tyrannical forces of evil. No, I'm talking about, for example, the English nobility and aristocracy. The House of Rothschild. Old Red Shield over there and all his fun tricks. I'm talking about the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, aka the House of Windsor, the very same bloodline of Queen Elizabeth II, who, by the way, these two houses, these two entities, still have not forgotten and will never forgive us Americans for giving them that ass beating that we did over 200 years ago, and again in the War of 1812. We did it twice. We pissed off these two great forces, the House of Rothschild and the House of Windsor. These are powerful nobility forces, very tyrannical forces. We Americans beat their ass twice, and we're going to beat them again. And they're really pushing to collapse this country, but we're going to beat them again. The founding fathers, they knew, and they expressed openly in all their literature what is needed to keep liberty strong. How liberty can be taken away and how freedoms can and will be lost if the people lose knowledge and faith, but more importantly, the will to protect them at all costs. Just because you're celebrating American Independence Day today, it doesn't mean you'll be celebrating it next year. Just because you have the rights of free speech today. And by the way, America is the only country that actually has the greatest and most genuine rights to free speech. Doesn't mean you won't be censored tomorrow. Doesn't mean you won't be labeled a Nazi or what you said is now labeled hate speech and now it is censorable. Just because you have the right to self-defense, to protect your life, liberty, and property, and to protect your family, doesn't mean the state won't attempt to confiscate your guns. Just because you don't have anything to hide, which is the response I absolutely hate and makes me cringe, doesn't mean that anything that you have said in the past, anything you said on social media, or in a message, or in an email, or on a phone conversation, won't be used against you at any point in time against you in the court of law. And we see this self-evident by the hashtag #MeToo, where people are having charges alleged against them that happened 20, 30 years ago. And just because you're charged with a crime doesn't mean that you always have a right to fair trial and the writ of habeas corpus. The America you know and love, the America I know and love, the freedoms and rights and liberties that we enjoy and unfortunately so many of us take for granted can be taken away if and only if the people allow it. We only lose our rights when we refuse to protect them, or when we lose the knowledge that we even have these rights and what these rights really mean. Something that blows my mind is people want to censorship other people yet want the right to free speech. You can't have it both ways. You can't censor your political enemies as well as have free speech for yourself. It doesn't work that way. When we lose that willingness to protect them and that knowledge that our forefathers, and especially the dangers they told us what would happen if we lost this knowledge and lost this will to protect our liberty, will be taken away, or in the greatest instances of regrettable stupidity, vote them away. Vote them away like we see happen in Europe and in Australia. Yep, they were just thrilled. They were so progressive. They were thrilled to vote their liberty away to a government that was savagely willing to take it. And now Europe is collapsing, and I bet they really, really regret giving up their guns. And people want us to become more like Europe. Screw that. We're Americans. I'm an American. I ain't gonna give up my rights and freedoms so easily. There was a reason the founding fathers left Europe to come to America. There was a reason my family left that shithole called Europe to come to America. We are Americans. I am an American. You are an American. Right now, 2018, we are not Europeans. We are red-blooded Americans. And, for the last 242 years, America has been the best in the West. It is a place of robust abundance and prosperity, of creation, of innovation, a land of inspiration, dreams, and success. The things that have come out of this country intellectually and technologically have been utterly phenomenal and transformative. Amazing stuff. This is a space, and the freedom that America bestows amongst its people, it gives them this unlimited potential to create. Now, of course, you can create for good or you can create for evil. That is the freedom of choice. That is the freedom of being a human. I see it, and I really imagine, I think you guys see it too, that modern day America is dying. She's rotting from the inside out. We see the sheer collapse of the family unit, which is the fundamental building block for any civilization, and for sure the stability of any civilization. We see the quality of the uneducation system, which is dumbing down children at a frightening pace. We see a drastic rise in mental health and substance abuse issues despite over 100 years of Western medicine and psychiatry. We see a sharp decline in birth rates for national-born citizens. We see our society worship pleasure and hedonism, like sex and drugs and alcohol and porn and fashion and Hollywood and cars and money. We receive messages like YOLO, encouraging people to act insensitive and ignorant and totally unconscious and completely unaware of the systemic impact that their actions have not only on their life, but if they have children, on their lives, throughout their lifespan and for generations to come and for communities to come. All of these are symptoms of a dying culture. This is our civilization that is slowly rotting from within. Many of us lack meaning in our lives because we're connected to a civilization that is dying. When a civilization is healthy, we feel vigor, we feel strength, we feel pride, we feel purpose. We feel creative, we feel innovative, we want to get out there in the day and hustle. But when the host body is dying, all of its cells are ready to give up. And I do not want to see this country die. I love this country. My ancestors came over here, some in the early 1900s, some in the late 1800s, and they came from Europe, shithole Europe, to the United States because they wanted to make something better of their life. And they wanted to make something better for their children. And they did. And they hustled. And they hustled hard. And they used the freedom given to them in America, the freedom to create the life that they want to create. And this freedom and this prosperity and this life got passed down generation to generation to generation all the way to me. And now I am responsible. I am responsible for continuing the wealth, continuing the prosperity, continuing the bloodline of my ancestors, my fathers, my great-grandfathers, my great-grandmothers, great men, great women. I am now responsible for continuing that. And I'm also responsible as an American citizen for continuing the fight that these forefathers, these founding fathers of this nation started 242 years ago. It has come down to me, and either I'm going to give up and be a coward, or I'm going to fight. And you know what? I'm gonna fight. This just might be our last chance. And guys, I really do not want this to come to a civil war. I don't want to see American Civil War 2.0. I don't want to see Revolutionary War 2.0. I don't want to see World War 3. I don't want this war to go hot, but if it does, you're going to have to ask yourself two questions. Are you willing to fight? Do you have the balls to get up and fight for this country, to fight for the principles of this country, to fight for the life of this country? What side are you fighting on? You're going to have to figure out those two questions and answer them, because I hope this thing doesn't go hot, but it just might go hot. So on this day, right now, today, forget the conflict, forget the violence, forget the differences, forget the hatred, forget all that bullshit. Today, July 4th, 2018, on this day, we come together united as Americans who love individual liberty, charity, hard work, free speech, free thought, dangerous freedom, and of course, are always up for a good fight. Today, we celebrate the fierce spirit of good old-fashioned Americana that is running through our veins, that is running through my father's veins, my grandfather's veins, my great-grandfather's veins. And it doesn't matter what your race is, your gender, your economic status, your nationality, or religious creed. None of that bullshit matters. If you are an American, my fight isn't with you. We are on the same team. We are the spirit of America, and we shall not be divided. And last but not least, today we remember the sacrifices of the past that built this country. The men and women, and I offer my profound gratitude to the men and women of past, present, and future who sacrificed their lives and their freedoms, protecting the lives and the liberties of others. I want to thank you all for tuning into another episode of the Self-Actualized Man. If you enjoy this content and would like more, please like, subscribe, and share the video. I always appreciate any help I can get to raise the profile of the show. Also, check out the Self-Actualized Man on Facebook. Join a group of men who unashamedly embrace their masculinity. We work together to reawaken that virile spirit that has often been crushed by women or school or our parents or the media, and to optimize the limited time and resources to create a meaningful and fulfilling life, especially important in these periods of darkness and corruption. And in order to help us to become men of greatness instead of men of mediocrity. And right now, guys, we really need men to become great again. Enjoy your liberty today, fellas. Keep all your fingers. Peace.